Welcome to SBE Podcast, the place where we share interesting ideas of interesting people here at our SBE faculty. Today with a very special guest, Jan Scheele, if I pronounced that correctly.
Very well.
Dutch name. Jan, you did your bachelor and master here in international business. From your website, you said you founded your first company with 13 years of age. You organized 50 plus TED events around the globe, coached speakers, among them the most successful TED talks ever, I think. And now you have your own company, Talk Like TED, that is aimed at promoting public speaking and communication with governments and corporations. Usually we start with the journey of how you got there, but I think we should start with the why for you. So what's your why?
If I look back to all the things that I've done and that I'm currently doing, these are grown out of hand hobbies. So I started making my first websites when I was 13, and I grew it into a communication agency. After that, I started organizing parties when I was 15 for school. And during my studies, I got in touch with TED, organized the TED events. And from that hobby, it was basically volunteer work. I started an event agency and the Mavens and Talk Like TED, the speaker coaching agency. Yeah. And during TED 2005, I came in touch with blockchain technology. So everything that has to do with cryptos, NFTs, metaverse, DAOs, etc. And that's how I started 2 new ventures. They're all grown out of hand hobbies.
Nice. Yeah, we'll maybe talk also about blockchain later, because that's also one thing you do quite a lot. But before, maybe how did you first get into TED? So you touched upon it a bit. What's the first TED Talk you saw? Do you remember that?
Now, it's interesting, as you mentioned, I studied at the School of Business Economics with a lot of pleasure. And during that time, I was living in a little room close to the Belgian border. And one of my roommates, he started tweeting about this TED phenomena. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I looked it up. And he got the idea, like, shall we start organizing the first TED-like event in the south of the Netherlands? Wow. We called it TEDx Utropolis. Utropolis is a concept where from a Maastricht architect combining this area with also the German area and the Belgium area and laying a metro map over the area. Yeah. It's a beautiful concept, maybe interesting for the show notes. But that's how I got in touch with TED, with this single tweet, and then started organizing the first event, and after that, 49 more followed.
What was is there the craziest event or some special moment you can share with us?
Now, let me share with you the craziest event is definitely the TEDx we did twice. I did twice. It happened many times in Baghdad, Iraq.
I heard that story, I think.
Yeah. Now, you can probably imagine that, like in a war zone, it's quite special to be around, to organize things. There are so many things that. I'm coming from the Netherlands, where everything. We're living in the most beautiful country in the world. And if you then go to a war zone, it's so different, like the constant pressure and all the things that are not working out as they should be. So, that was definitely the craziest experience. Coming back to what is my favorite TED Talk, I think I'll give you a more general answer. And usually what I really appreciate from the TED Talks, that when I compiled the program, when I looked for speakers, it was not that I just looked for cool people, cool speakers. No, I was looking for ideas. Like, what are these, provoking, these groundbreaking ideas? And people that are not very famous yet, but with our global platform that we offer to local talents, we can actually give people maybe a little jumping board. Yeah. And I've seen over the past years so many cool speakers, local speakers from local events, Maastricht, Eindhoven, Amsterdam, who came to the stage, nobody knew them before. And after that, now some of them are like globally very well known. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any pattern maybe in ideas that you recognize? Because for me, I think we all have ideas.
Yeah.
And then how do everyday thoughts maybe come into great ideas that are worth sharing?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that the main thing is that the people that spoke at our events, they didn't just have ideas, they also put these ideas into action.
Yeah.
So they were already able to present results from their actions. So, for example, Wim Hof, Iceman, he was able to present the results, like why is he able to get so much cold, like why he can climb the Mont Blanc in his briefs or run, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The same with Bart Knols, also one of my favorite TED speakers, spoke at my TEDx Maastricht event about how he was going to prevent malaria by eating local Limburgian cheese. It's called Romedoux. And he had a lot of research behind it. So it was a lot of people, they laughed first, and after that they felt like, that's genius. So, it really comes back to people that just don't not only have ideas, but also execute them, and were able to present the results.
Yeah. And then if we look at how we come from idea to TED Talk, right? Because you are, after all, a coach for public speaking. Before we maybe get into what your company precisely does, is there any trait you think you need to be a great speaker, or is that something everyone can learn?
I definitely believe that everybody, every single human, you, me, everybody here at the university at Maastricht, has a beautiful story to tell. And with the right preparation, with the right ingredients, is able to do so at the big stage.
Yeah.
So coming back on what defines a great speaker, in my perspective, it all comes back to prepare in a variety of ways. And it's not just practicing, your text, but also prepare what is the audience that you're going to address. What is the goal of your presentation? What are the important remarks that you're going to make? But also all the items that you're going to kill, all the darlings that you're going to kill from your story. I mean, it's preparing. With TED speakers, we usually invited them 9 to 6 months before the event.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So people can take the time to prepare their presentation. I mean, some people nowadays, and that's not just students, that's also in corporates, in government, they check their agenda in the evening and they think like, oh, shit, I have to present tomorrow. They just compiled, a deck with a few slides that they still have, and then they're going to present this, without any goal or red line or a thought behind it. That's where most of the presentations just go awfully wrong.
So, other than preparation, are there maybe a few things you could share with us that make a great public speaker? What makes a great TED Talk?
Now, there's a few basic things that are, in my perspective, very important. First of all, is that if we look back to the research by Princeton University about the success of TED Talks, what we see is the main thing is that the speakers were storytellers. So they were telling a story instead of bombarding people with facts and figures and whatever, they were telling people a story. Just like Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, they were telling a nice story, a nice anecdote or whatever. And of course, within the story, they included some important research findings or ideas or whatever. But the main thing of their presentation, of their TED Talk, was a story. Now, the second thing, what a lot of people forget, is the nonverbal communication. So a lot of people, they only focus on the story itself and the slide deck. While in my perspective, 3/4 of the success of a TED Talk comes also from using your body strategically. And this is not just walking and using your hands, but also things like mimics, use them extensively. But also very important, 5 types how you can use your voice, for example. Intonation, articulation, breaks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Most people, they don't use them. Most people, they don't practice them. While in my perspective, they are hugely complementing to a success of a presentation.
Yeah. And then there's also one of my favorite TED Talks by Simon Sinek, of course, the Golden Circle.
He spoke here in Maastricht, actually.
I saw,
my Maastricht event. Yeah.
You coached him as well, or?
I didn't coach him, but I had a great time with him. So, he is a very nice guy. We had drinks together the night before. He gave me his coin of inspiration, and he's a pleasant guy. He's a pleasant speaker. Some speakers, if they get a little famous, they're going to demand a lot of things. And I remember we were with TEDx Maastricht oversold. People were sitting here in the theater at the stairs. And Simon, he was not an ass like, I need to sit here, I'm a speaker. He was just sitting next to me on the stairs. He's very, very nice. Yeah.
Nice. Well, stay humble, I think. Keep the connection.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can go more towards Talk Like TED. How can we imagine this company? You are passionate about TED. You said you started organizing one. How did you make it a company?
Basically, from past TED speakers that called me and asked me like, "Hey Jan, we really enjoyed the speaker coaching. Can you do the same for my team, for my company, for me?" Again. Yeah. So it started also here as a hobby, people inviting me back. And after that, I saw the huge needs within every organization, a lot of individuals of really working on their story, working on the delivery of the story, these two major parts. So that's why I set up Talk Like TED. And I run around 50 to 60 clients on a yearly basis. Ranging from top-level CEOs, state of secretary, top DJs, to students, entrepreneurs, book writers, everything. Basically everybody, again, in my perspective, has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And if it's maybe you have to speak at an important event, maybe you have to speak at a funeral, whatever, but people always want to tell stories in a very nice way. And then, for most people, the TED Talks are still a great structure, or great, great ideas how you can actually tell this story in a very appealing way. So,
Is there maybe, I'm just thinking, a way you can discover the story you want to tell? Because I think, I also think everyone has a story to tell, but if you ask people, what's your story, they'll be like, is there something you can say, like advise us to find our ideas and form that stories, maybe?
When I usually start with a creative kickoff, I really look for most important. I look for the important factors that are influencing the story, like the audience, the goal of the presentation, that kind of stuff. Usually when I start looking for the story of a person, so when we start discussing this, most people have this already quite sharp. They know, I have this book, or I have this product or service, or I have this personal story that I want to share. Or most people, in my perspective, they have their story ready. They have experience with working, for example, on projects. They already have written blogs about the topic, have been active in it in the industry for years. So usually people have already the topic quite clear.
Okay. And then they come to you. What are maybe some of the most interesting people you work with, or organizations, if you can disclose that information?
Oh, for sure. And they're also on my website. It's everything ranging from Shell, Google, Deloitte, to there's over 100 really cool organizations where I'm proud of, and it's not just the big names. Yeah. For me, the coolest thing in coaching people is making people really better, is to see them making better. So, for example, when you get back from clients that they're so sincerely happy with finally having a clear story to tell, finally daring to take the stage. Like I worked, for example, with an executive of a multinational that was quite afraid of taking the stage. Like people dealing with hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. But, presenting, is still for 75% of the people scary, We have these glossobia hormones in our body. So, like a lot of people are still scared.
Yeah.
Gandhi, always had to puke before entering the stage. Everybody has a quite like a sense of fear for public speaking. So when I then, see that people are vulnerable, are open for feedback, are open for change, are open to really, work on their performance, that's for me great, to see people grow. And this can be a student, this can be a CEO, I don't mind. But really seeing people grow, I think I wrote a book, actually, recently published it. And my introduction story is actually about a student that had severe problems with public speaking. I think we spent like hours and hours and hours to work on this. And in the end, he was giving the talk, and there were like 300 people in the audience, and I was sitting there, and I could feel their emotion, and everybody was like, everybody was like almost crying, so happy that the speaker, like, boom, in one shot, gave his TED talk, the students. That gave me, in the Dutch, you would say, like, chicken skin. Like, you felt it, everyone was like, crying and screaming and that kind of stuff. That was so cool to see. Somebody that put so much effort in it and finally gave this result. So, it's not the type of, it's like, if it's a student, if it's a CEO, I don't mind. If it's about the progress and the vulnerability in the process. Yeah.
Maybe what are some of the more challenging parts of your job, or what's something... because we've heard like the cool stuff. What's not so great?
Now, as a professional, I try to give people advice, how to improve things, how to do things in a different way. And most of the materials that I share are really research based. So it's really based on research by respective universities. But still, I have dialogues with clients that, in the end, just do the other thing. So I give you an idea or an example. When I work with clients, we look at the story, and only at the end we look if we, for example, need slides to enforce the message, to visualize important things. Only at the end. And then, I tell people about the importance of a clean deck. So, one image a slide, like we did with TED, because otherwise people are distracted. They don't listen to your story anymore. And still, even if I give a lot of research backing, people are like filling the slide up with like text and corporate branding logos and images that are not interested in that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, I try to convince you. I try to tell you why you should not do it. And then people still do it. So that's the only thing. I really sincerely try to help people. And then sometimes it's tough, of course, if people just don't listen or listen and just do the totally different thing.
Yeah. And I think you also travel quite a bit then around the world. But then what makes you stay in Maastricht maybe? Are you a Maastricht local? Or
not.
You moved here?
No, I was born in The Hague. And after a few years in the northern part of the Netherlands called Drenthe, I moved to Maastricht. Actually, all my friends from school, they went to Groningen University, but I was there at the study fair. And when I walked out of the study fair, somewhere at the corner, there were these guys from Maastricht University. I had a very nice chat with them while I was actually going out. And I was like, okay, well, let's give it a shot. So I came to Maastricht. Was received on an open day with some nice fly. I still can remember. Nice. And after that, I decided that I really liked the international business study, Maastricht a city. So that's how I came here studying. I had an incredible time, 7 years I think. I did all the student things like the faculty board and committees and my fraternity and that kind of stuff. So. Had a great time here. Meanwhile, I was building my companies. I was already working on organizing the TED events and working in communications. At the end of the studies, I was already networking here with locals, and I got some projects for the companies. And then I decided to stay here and never moved out. And of course, in the past years, especially after Corona, when everything went back, well, let's say to normal, with all the traveling, I considered a few times, do I want to stay in Maastricht? Yeah. Because, Tuesday I went up and down to Rotterdam. These are 5 or 6 hour trips by train for one meeting. So then, I'm like, okay, Maastricht, it's quite a distance. But for me, I'm always working in the train, so it's another problem. And for me, the quality of life is so incredibly good in Maastricht that that's really keeping me here all the time. Yeah. Making me here to stay. I mean, the space, the people, the way how people enjoy life. I walk literally everything. Only use my bike once a week for groceries. I mean, that's for me quality of life. Yeah. When I go to the bigger cities like Amsterdam, Utrecht, I have an office there. I love it. Meet people, do my projects, but the energy is good. But I always go back. Yeah, don't want to live there.
Yeah, I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people. Also, very international university with the PBL system. Public speaking, I think we already have an advantage to other universities. I just came back from a SBE trip to Dublin, Dublin Tech trip, where we also had to present quite a bit and pitch. And I think Maastricht students are, you can see that they have to do a lot of presenting in university. For sure. So,
I think it was also born here, right? It's the PBL system.
Yeah, I think so.
It was born at the SBE, at the faculty. And if you look around, I mean, the initiators are at the SBE. But now I think most universities in the Netherlands are, and also a lot of them in Europe, are using the system. So I think Maastricht can be very proud about that.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk a bit about how you actually manage to make your hobbies and your passion your job.
Yeah.
We had an earlier episode also about how to find your passion, maybe how to define a passion. But for me, it's something, or I think a lot of people still struggle with, what do I want to do after university? And to have this knowledge that you can make your passion your job.
Yeah.
That would be something interesting to hear from you.
I think it's important to easily check it, to check the work, the hobbies that you have. Are it also services that are offered by professional companies? I mean, if you love to make nice movies, well, I mean, for sure. I mean, there are so many video editors. There's so many, companies that are offering these services. I mean, and that's with a lot of hobbies, right? I mean, a lot of hobbies that students do, students have, you can definitely make a living out of it. But here comes the glitch. You can make a living out of it, but then you need to find clients. You need to set up a company, do all the registration, the administration, the legal stuff, to be like a legal entity in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they just don't know, all the basics, how to do this. So that's usually a lot of people is scaring it off. When they see all the things, the basic things that they need to take into account to start a company to actually make work from their passion. But on the other hand, I mean, in my perspective, not everybody has to be an entrepreneur, right? I mean, that's less than 1% of the people in the end to become an entrepreneur. And I think most people are actually better off when they use their use their hobby, their enthusiasm, their interest, their background in a professional job, in a professional organization, instead of offering it as in their own company.
Yeah. Do you have some insight about what makes a great entrepreneur then, maybe, other than the passion, of course?
Now, entrepreneurs are, in my perspective, not born, they're made. So,
okay.
in my perspective, it starts with being creative. Like always having new ideas, new ways to approach a problem, new ideas for products or services. Like constantly have this creative mind goggling. That's why, for example, 5 years ago I quit alcohol. Because I saw, I was drinking beers and wines and that kind of stuff, and it really eliminated like the creativity in my mind. So when I stopped drinking alcohol, I became so creative. Usually when I go offline for a week and really switch off my phone, like fully offline, I have like 50 new ideas. Wow. For new companies, a book, or whatever. So. You need to, constantly you need to innovate, to change, to become bigger, or to, expand and that kind of stuff. So first of all, really being the creative mind. And then the second thing is, and I think that's where most people, why most people don't become an entrepreneur, is also don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid not to try. For me, it's really about... I started so many companies that in the end, didn't turn out as I had already 5 big companies I worked on with business partners, worked on for a year, for 1.5 years, spent some money. In the end, we closed the company. Didn't went as we thought. Well, great. Well, I learned a lot, take all these learnings into a next company. But, that's the thing. You never take... The first shot that you take is never successful. Yeah. And don't know... If I look back to my friends from Maastricht University who became entrepreneurs, all of them are now in their second or third company. They closed the first and the second. So, it's also, the ability to constantly, to actually be able to, if you fail, to get up, start again. Yeah. So that's a quote of, I think, was Mandela, right? So, fall down 9 times, get up 10 times.
Nice. Or you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Something I tell myself when applying to different positions or starting.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. You're also... What inspires me about you is not only the public speaking, but also how much different things you do. You mentioned all the companies. You're also in the blockchain crypto scene very active. I think you spoke at the symposium at SBE recently. Yeah. What are you doing in crypto?
Now, the important thing is to first define the technology. In my perspective, it's Web3. And Web3 is a collection of technologies, right? It's everything that has to do with decentralized applications in the internet. So cryptos, blockchain, we have NFTs, little metaverse, also DAOs, all these different parts. It started for me with just becoming more interested in Bitcoin in 2015 when the price was still, I think, $150. I studied finance that time. I am a nerd from the inside, so that's why I thought Bitcoin was very interesting. Got to learn more about the technology, and in the end I became CEO of a scale-up now, Bitcanna. Raised $18 million of funding and built a global platform for the cannabis industry, actually. And I just left this company. It's now ready. It's global. It's launched. Wow. So on to the next adventure. And besides that, I write a lot. I write books. I write tens of blogs every year. And with the blogs I wrote about Web3, and I'm still writing about everything, about the technologies. I get so many views. In the end, I write, for example, for an important marketing blog, gained already over 1 million views of my blogs about Web3. And then, grown out of hand hobby again, I got invited by leading Dutch companies to tell them, what can I do with crypto? Pension funds. They ask me, what can we do with cryptos? What are the possibilities? Or more the famous names in the Netherlands, brands like PostNL and Marktplaats, etc. The Dutch Royal Soccer Association, KVB, they asked me, what can we do with NFTs or, in Metaverse or other parts of Web3? So that's why I founded the second agency, which is more focused on the advisory and the inspirational side of Web3. And besides the two agencies, I'm also running the Dutch ecosystem. It's called Blockchain Netherlands. And here it's the oldest, largest ecosystem of the Netherlands for Web3. So we have like 100 active members, which are startups in the scene, and thousands of professionals joining us for things like events. And that's the main thing. We organize a lot of events. All the big events are organized by us. And
Wow.
We work on things like expanding the ecosystem, developing, growing the ecosystem. We're in touch with press. We're in touch with other European ecosystems. We're doing trade missions, that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm doing in the Web3 space.
Would you say your time between Web3 and TED, where does the majority of your time go to?
It really differs. Some weeks I'm filled with sessions for Talk Like TED. The other week I have a lot of events. For example, in June I have a full week of events for Web3. I have my event company, where I'm still producing events, and some weeks are just filled with only events. So it really, really differs, and sometimes it's a combination. So usually, honestly, this sounds maybe silly, but it's not. I'm not like compiling my agenda. It's the clients that literally call me like, hey, like today I had 2 calls with clients, and then it's not like, hey, what date are you available? It's literally like, we have an event this day. Are you available? So usually clients, they compile my agenda.
Okay. Maybe to circle back to public speaking. How can crypto? Do you see a future of Web3 with TED, with public speaking? How can this change the way we consume knowledge? Maybe is there some vision you have in that?
Oh, for sure. If you look to Web3, when we discuss this with politicians, with press, whatever, people are interested in the ecosystem. People of general interest. What you see is a lot of people, they are knowledgeable about things like cryptos. But most people, they don't know. They don't know what is why should I use it? What is the technology about? Blah, 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 blah. So most people, they just don't know. It's the same with your phone. You just want 5G to work, but you don't care about the routers, the cables, and that kind of stuff, the technology. And that's, so most people, they just don't care. Now, when you look at how can TED influence this, and I think already has done, is that you make the stories visible. So you make the stories of impact of the technology, you make them visible in a TED-worthy way. And this already happened. There are several TED speakers that spoke about the global impact of Web3. For me, this is also the most interesting thing why I'm involved in the Web3 ecosystem, really focusing on global impact. I mean, I worked for an African country with the Minister of Finance. I worked for Costa Rica, on their tourism, traceability, that kind of stuff. Like these kind of these cases, that's for me interesting, like really where the technology has impact. This is when I tell these stories, they make it for people easier to grasp the importance of the technology, the practical use of the technology. So coming back to your question, in my perspective, the TED way of presenting these kind of technologies that for most people are not easy to understand, I think is key in growing and developing the ecosystem, the Web3 ecosystem.
Maybe we can talk about go from present to future. And the first question would be, what future do you see for TED? Being so successful in sharing ideas, kind of democratizing knowledge as well. How does the future look like for TED? What's your vision, maybe?
Now, if you look at the organization itself, TED, it went through a little, a tough time, of course. I mean, the business model of TED are the two big events. The organization is organizing in Vancouver and another global place, Brazil, Africa, Edinburgh nowadays. And they generate most of the income for the organization from these events, big sponsorships, etc. We're speaking about like $60 million a year. Now, with Corona, of course, this was tough. The same with TEDx events. You saw most of the events being canceled because, teams quit, partners quit. So we see, the amount of events, the amount of TED Talks, of course, that kind of stuff really diminished. But I think most important thing, and what I still hear back from clients literally daily, is the concept is still very clear, is very strong. So that's what we still see back. For most people, TED Talks are a standard in storytelling, a standard in presenting. So that's for me the most important thing. And then if you look back to the concept, I mean, never change a winning team, right? I mean, the concept is still clear. The concept is still there. There's this big event happening with really cool ideas. There's always new branches within the TED organization that are being started. Like, for example, they started a new part that is more focused on climate change and how every individual can act on that. Also, TED Talks there, events, that kind of stuff. So there will always be new ideas, but basically, I mean, the organization hasn't changed since then because the idea, the concept is still strong. Global stage for local talents.
Nice. And what about your future? Do you have something planned, something that inspires you that you want to pursue in the next years?
What I hear back from friends of mine in, for example, Silicon Valley, when they discuss investment proposals with investors, for example, they literally are not taking them serious anymore if investment proposals are reaching a longer time span than 2-3 years. I mean, look around in what they usually say, a VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous. It's so many things are changing. So many things are unclear. There are so many, as they say, Nicholas Taleb beautifully mentioned it, like so many black swans flying around, right? We see Ukraine, but we have Taiwan, we have the US, we have so many things that are happening now on a global scale that can, literally change from one day to another day and cause a global impact, not just economically, but also socio-economically. I mean, I never make plans for 5 or 10 years. I have very extensive plans for all my companies, private-wise, etc. I really have 3 papers written down of plans that I look at every morning with breakfast. But I change them every quarter because, things are changing so fast. And a friend of mine, he did research for 8 years about serendipity. And I also believe in this, it's most of the things, the coolest things, the biggest projects, you are very lucky that they are being thrown at you. But it's about, taking next steps, seeing, the combinations and that kind of stuff. It's all about serendipity. And these are not things that you can predict in the upcoming months or years. These are things that are happening at the moment that you don't expect. But if they are there, that you take charge, take the leads, action them, work on them, connect with people, that kind of stuff. So I don't have a 3 or 5 year plan. Of course, the most important thing, I want to stay healthy. That's why I don't drink alcohol, work out every morning, no sugars, that kind of stuff. I think that's the most important thing. And have fun, because life is going so extremely fast.
Yeah.
So, travel a lot, and really have fun. Very important.
Nice. From that I would go to some advice to either your younger self, or if we think about students who might be graduating soon, what is your advice? Maybe your 3 most important life takeaways, tips you want to share with students.
Actually, there's a beautiful book, one of my favorite book writers, Timothy Ferriss. And he wrote 2 books. He wrote many books, but 2 of them, Tools of Titans, Tribe of Mentors. He asked hundreds of billionaires, of CEOs, of top performers, Olympic medal, gold medal winners, etc. This exact same question. Like, if you would be 30 again, what would you tell your 30 self or whatever, And what do you think is the one thing that most what's the one thing, most important thing that people would tell themselves?
Oh, that's a good question.
I will tell you, travel more. What I see, I travel a lot, sometimes 30 times a year. But for me, it's giving me so much pleasure. It's connecting me with new cultures, giving me new ideas, that kind of stuff. And what I see back now from I'm single. I'm gay. I'm single, so I don't have children. I don't have a partner right now. And when I look at my friends who are engaged, who have children, that kind of stuff, when I have a conversation with them right now, I'm 35 right now, and the one thing that what they really miss is traveling. Put on your backpack and go to Asia, go to South America for a month, or whatever, or 3 months, while it's still possible. I mean, if you graduate from university, well, you get to work, and I will tell you, most companies, they don't give you a very long holiday. Maybe you get engaged, your partner doesn't want to travel, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, while you still can't go travel, go see the world. So that's the number one. The second thing, what I see a lot of people doing not very well, is that a lot of people, they already have so many obligations. They take so many obligations, like big loans or mortgages, that kind of stuff, that limits themselves in taking next steps. So what I see is a lot of people, they get so many huge mortgages that, for example, that is limiting them in, for example, starting up an own company, because they have to get, they have to pay the mortgage every month and that kind of stuff. So I also see people that, started more budget-wise, limited, and that gave them so much freedom, so much, they were so relaxed because they didn't have all these huge financial obligations directly already after their studies. And it gave them so much more space, so much more freedom to actually work on their ideas, try to make them professional and get an earning out of it. So, I think these are the 2 more, two important things. And the last thing, and this sounds maybe cheesy, but have fun. Yeah. I died almost 6 years ago because of a heart infection. I had a lot of friends and family members and whatever who also died very unexpected and very young. I mean, this can literally happen from day 1 to day 2, right? So, if there's one lesson, like the third lesson that you asked for, it's have fun, I see a lot of people that are constantly procrastination. They're always saying I'll travel next year, or this year, or next year, or whatever. They always shift it forward. And in my perspective, have fun now. Make it count every year again, every month again. Because as I mentioned, time is going so fast, and before you know, you are already stuck in a job or a relationship or whatever.
Yeah, that reminds me of your LinkedIn catchline, which is life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all, which really resonated with me, and I think hopefully also to our viewers at home. Well, thank you, Jan. I think this was one of my favorite episodes so far.
Pleasure to hear.
I think we got a lot of insights from a very interesting person. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for the kind invitation, and wishing you good luck with the podcast.
Perfect. Then that was it for this episode. See you in the next one.